Okay, so the purpose of this video is to compare two family members that did both family tree DNA test and the Ancestry DNA test. Now before I go into the details, I want to tell you there are differences in types of DNA test. The Autosomal DNA test is the basic DNA test that both of these companies perform. In addition to those autosomal tests, family tree DNA also will check mtDNA, which we did as well, and also YDna. Now males can only do YDna, and mtDNA can be done by males or females. The mtDNA only looks at the female line, and that's female by female all the way back, mother to grandmother to great-grandmother, etc. The YDna looks at dad, grandfather, great-grandfather, and it's all one continuous line since it's direct lineage. So anyway, that's what I wanted to tell you is ftDNA does have more available types of tests than Ancestry DNA, and in general I get more updates on a regular basis from family tree DNA telling me of new relatives that have been found on either the mtDNA test, which is the mother's line, or the YDna test, which is on the father's line. So that is quite interesting. It helps you flesh out your family tree when those people come up. If they have a detailed family tree themselves, then you can get the information from their information and see how it works in with yours. Now we both had a very good understanding of our lineage for at least a few hundred years back. So these tests that we did basically confirmed what we already knew. And now I'm going to go into the detail. So the first test that you're going to see, 96% European. This is the family tree DNA test. And it also shows a breakdown of 64% British Isles, 24% Scandinavia, and 8% Southeast Europe. Now this particular test gives you a nice little map. And in addition, if you do the mtDNA and the YDna test, you get additional maps that show the lineage of your haplogroup. So they estimate, based on those two separate tests, what haplogroup you are, and then you can see where your haplogroup originated. So each male line on the YDna has its own haplogroup, and the mtDNA also has its own haplogroup. So then those maps, you can see how those haplogroups migrated from thousands of years ago to current day. Okay, so now the Ancestry DNA test shows 98% European, which is very similar. It shows 60% Great Britain, which is very similar to the ftDNA test. And if you add in the 4% Ireland, technically I think it would be a match, because that would also be considered a British Isle. And then it's also got 21% Scandinavian, which is very similar to the 24% from the ftDNA test. Now where it showed a little more detail was in the small trace values. It showed 5% Iberian Peninsula, 4% Europe East, and 4% Italy, Greece. So if you take Europe East and Italy, Greece, add those together, there's your 8% Southeast Europe that the family tree DNA test showed. So this is near identical. Now I'm going to go to the second test. Now this other person was 100% European according to family tree DNA, and the breakdown was only two categories. It was 62% West and Central Europe and 38% British Isles. Now that was a little bit surprising for us because there is Scandinavian history in the family, and so we were surprised to not see that in that test. The Ancestry DNA test came out a little bit different. It showed 99% European, which is very similar, and it showed 33% Great Britain as opposed to family tree's 38% British Isles, so very similar. But the West and Central Europe on the family tree test that was 62% shows 30% Western Europe on the Ancestry DNA and 27% Scandinavian. Now you could say, well, maybe the Scandinavian was just lumped in to West and Central Europe on the family tree DNA test, except for the other party's family tree DNA test explicitly showed Scandinavian lineage. So it seems that on the family tree DNA there may have been some missed Scandinavian information that came through on their result that did show on the Ancestry DNA result. The Ancestry DNA result also shows 5% Ireland. So again, very similar except for the Scandinavian part, which I think was maybe missed at the lab. If you couple in the mtDNA and the YDna from family trees tests that we also took, you can see those migration paths from the ancient haplogroups. So together it's an all-encompassing result. It kind of includes everything that we knew. I highly recommend the family tree DNA tests by using the mtDNA, the YDna, and the Autosomal. That is, all three tests are more thorough, I believe, than the simple Ancestry DNA Autosomal test. Now that said, Ancestry DNA's database is bigger than the family tree DNA Autosomal database. But like I said, when you take all three of those tests together, I believe you get more information and more access on a regular basis to matches from family tree than you do Ancestry. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing both companies. The good thing about family tree is if you started with Ancestry DNA, you can upload the result into your family tree DNA account. So you could use that test and then take the Y and the mtDNA test through family tree, and then you've got all three pieces to the puzzle. The other thing I don't like about Ancestry DNA is that when you go in and try to find out information from all of their other sites that they have, they want you to pay more money. And it seems like they want a yearly membership for documents that you can search and things like that. And I believe that once you pay for your DNA test, that you should have access to all of these things. The good thing about taking the Ancestry DNA test after doing all of the family tree DNA is that they were very similar, so it made us feel confident with their result. The other thing about Ancestry DNA is it showed some maps of migration through the United States, and I know for a fact that those were fairly accurate because they picked specific regions that we know our family was in. So those maps were pretty interesting. So you get some real nice maps through both of these. The family tree DNA, if you take all three tests, you are paying a little bit more money than if you paid for one Ancestry DNA test. But you have access to other things. If you take the family tree mtDNA and YDna test, you can upload your information to the YDna project, which is worldwide, and it gives you access to many more possible matches that are not within this local area. It's other countries that are included. So I just feel like I have more access to information through family tree. Alright, so that's my result. Hopefully that helps you.